Okay, the altruistic motivation. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Dagla dang war je pe dra no pa je pe geg. Tarpa dang tam she ken pe bar du jo par je pa tam she ki so je pe. Manam kadam yam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den. Dug now dang drel nur du la na me pa yang dak par zog pe zhang ju brin po she to par ja. The action bodhicitta prayer. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Deshe du sang ma ge gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. The long refuge prayer. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Until we take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Dren san sa wa dang gur pa je pe pao den la ma dam pa nam la kab su chi o. Ye dam kil gorgi la sok nam la kab su chi o. Sangye chom den de nam la kab su chi o. Dam pe cho nam la kab su chi o. Papege dunam la kapsu chio. Pawo kadro cho kyong song me song yeshe gi chang dang dem pa nam la kapsu chio. Taking the Bodhisattva vow, or cultivating bodhicitta. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Shang Zhu Ning Por Chi Ki Bar Sangye Namla Kapsuchi, Chodang Shangshub Sampayi, Soklang Deshin Kapsuchi, Jitar Nonggi Deshegi, Shangshub Tugni Ke Padang, Shangshub Sampe La Pala, De Dagrim Shin E Patar, De Shin Drola Pandandu, Shangshub Samni Ke Gishing, De Shin Du Ni La Pala, Rimpa Shin Du La Pargi O. The short refuge prayer. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soki Chodam Shangshu Bardu Dagni Kapsuchi, Dagi Jinsoki Pe Sonamgi, Drola Penchir Sange Jupasho. The four immeasurables. May all mothers, sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mothers, sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesem chantam she dewadang dewe gurdang dempajurchi. Dug now dang dunel gigu dang drawar jurchi. Dug now me pe dewa dang mi drawar jurchi. May ring jag dang ni dang drawe tang nam la ne pa jurchi. Now the seven limb prayer we'll just do in English. So recite along with me. I bow down respectfully with my body, speech, and faithful mind to all Tathagatas in the 10 directions, those who have already reached the Tathagata state, those who are reaching it at present, and those Tathagatas still to come. Through the power of Samantapadra's prayers, may all the Buddhas manifest vividly in my mind. I prostrate to them, multiplying my body as many times as there are atoms of the earth. In each atom, I visualize as many Buddhas as there are atoms, surrounded by countless Bodhisattvas. Thus, all space is filled with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I praise all Buddhas through magnificent chanting, expressing the great ocean of their excellent qualities. To all Buddhas, I make offerings of various pure flowers, of flower garlands, of music, anointing oils, magnificent light, and fragrant incense. I make offerings to them of fine garments, perfume, and potpourri, piled high as Mount Meru and arranged in the most beautiful way. I visualize the highest and most extensive offerings and offer them with great faith to all the Buddhas. I prostrate to the Buddha and make offerings to them, following the deeds of the great Bodhisattva Samantabhadra. I confess to you, Buddhas, whatever negative actions I have committed due to the power of anger, desire, and ignorance. I rejoice in the merit of all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, of the great Bodhisattvas and Pratyeka Buddhas, those who have attained arhatship, those who have entered the path to arhatship, and all other beings. I request to all great protectors and Buddhas to turn the highest wheel of Dharma as the light dispelling the darkness of the beings of the 10 directions and leading them gradually to the enlightened state. I supplicate those Buddhas intending to pass into parinirvana to live long for as many eons as there are atoms of the earth in order to benefit all beings. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offering, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Now the short mandala offering. That may not be in the book that you have, Rebecca, but the ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and the moon. As the Buddha field, I offer it. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. To the lamas who possess the 3 kayas, I offer the outer, inner, and secret offerings with my body, wealth, and all that is visible. Please grant me the supreme realization, enlightenment. Whatever merit I've gathered through prostration, offering, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Now Tibet. Sashi pochu jong me to tram, ri rab ling shi ni de kempadi. Sangye shen la make te po wa yi, jokun nam dag shin du ke war sho, kusam yon sog la me sog nam la, chi nang shang sum de shin yi ki cho, dag lu long cho nag si yong she la, la me cho gi no drup sao du so. Chak sa wa dang cho ching sa pa dang. Jesu yi rang kol sing so wa yi. De wa jung ze da gi ji sag pa. Tam she zog pe shang shu chi no. Om Guru Ratna Mandala Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Ahom. Now the next page is supplication to Lord Jigden Sumgun, and then the request for teachings. Unequaled refuge, ornament of the world, your fame pervades the 3,000 worlds. You are the victor, Vajradhar, without a doubt. I bow at the feet of the Father, Jigden Sumgun. Continually, I think of no one but you. Compassionate one, grant your blessings. Dispel the darkness that surrounds my heart. Please bless me so that I can realize the unelaborated nature of mine. Tibet. Jab Drengi Do Me Zam Lingen, Drag Pe Dong Som Yong La Kab. So me gawa dorje chang, pa jig ten gong pe shaladu. Du tak tu sam yu kyo le me, jingi lob shik dorje chang, yingi mon pa sal ne kyang. Sam Jodral du Topar Jinji Lo. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the 2 vehicles and their combination according to the disposition and likewise the mental capacities of sentient beings. Sam Jan Nam Ki Sampadam. Lo yi je dak chi ta wa, che chong tom mok te pa yi, chogi kor lo kor du so. And now I'll recite the Sagaramati requested sutra that's on page 12 in the small prayer book. Likewise be extinguished all enemies to my purpose. Whatever evil forces are in me, be defeated. Do this so that when I am victorious, all pure radiance melts into me, completely purified. Take all this knowledge, food and drink peacefully. Enjoy it and be satisfied so that all obstacles may be destroyed. Be liberated from all obstacles, all general obstacles. Maras are defeated by this gesture of the Buddha. By reciting this mantra, may all the Maras be purified. As a result, may all the Maras be defeated. Om Ahom. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions about the opening prayers? Okay. So, as we've talked about several times, you know, there are the academics, the teachings of the doctrine, the teachings of the basic academic fundamentals of what the Dharma is. And so we have been doing that the past number of weeks and so on. And then last week we did a practice that was a purification practice to now take some of that which we have learned from the academics and put it into a practice mode so that we can see how we can transform our focus, we can transform our attention, we can transform our mindfulness now into bringing in this purification into ourselves, purifying ourselves. Everything that happens is happening within ourselves. It's not out there, it's all within here. So in keeping with that idea of looking at practice, being able to incorporate practice, because that has to happen concurrently with the academics, we're going to do what we call a deity yoga practice tonight. So the deities, as I've explained before, are all within us, and they reflect these enlightened activities of our pure nature, of the Buddha nature, what we call the Buddha nature. And the mind of that Buddha nature is bodhicitta, the holy enlightened mind, which has the four qualities of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Now, the way that those four immeasurables, that bodhicitta manifests, is manifold, many, many different activities in the way that it manifests to help sentient beings, to help beings like us, and so on. So in each of these different ways in which it manifests, it's like the facets of a diamond. The diamond is the bodhicitta, and the facets are the different enlightened activities. And each of these different facets, each of these different activities has a name to it. It has a name of the activity, such as compassion or wisdom or healing or fearlessness, things like that. But also, it has an anthropomorphic association with an illustration of a deity, one of the different Buddhas or Bodhisattvas, that allows us to be able to kind of take these abstract ideas and bring them into ourselves by recognizing these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as like us. You know, it's beyond us. It is something that at some point we have to recognize and let go of. But in the meantime, as we're moving along the pathway, it's important for us to be able to identify these deities through their characteristics, their physical characteristics, what they represent in their intellectualism, what they represent to us in terms of their activity and so on, and then what their ability is to be able to open up our mindfulness, to be able to become one with them, to be able to recognize their Buddha nature is our Buddha nature. So So to do this, we have these different deity yoga practices. So the yoga means union. So what we are literally doing is putting ourselves in union with the deity through these practices. These practices are called sadhanas, sadhana, and it's a Sanskrit word simply for a practice. So it's through doing this over and over again that we begin to recognize this true nature that we have within ourselves. It's manifold with all these different deity and enlightened activities and so on. So we talked it, for us as beginners, we start recognizing all these vocabulary words. We start assembling all these concepts and developing all this academic knowledge and so on. And then we begin to put ourselves on the pathway to purify ourselves, our defilements, our confusions, and so on, and to progress along this pathway to become a wholly enlightened being. So as we do that, as a beginner, we become a practitioner. And so the goal for us, the immediate goal for us, is to develop, cultivate a daily practice for ourselves. So maybe it's only 10 minutes, maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's an hour, whatever time that you can put aside to kind of set your mind, set your mindfulness, get ready for the day. Or if it's at the end of the day, to be able to take the day and now assemble it into a way that makes sense and is peaceful so that you can go to sleep properly and then wake up the next day and start over again. So generally the practices are very good to do early in the morning, but not everybody can do that. But if you can set some time aside to be able to collect all this, bring this all together, is very, very beneficial. So this is what a practitioner does. So it's not just listening to the teachings, it's now taking the teachings and putting them into a practice. So therefore, we become a practitioner. And it's not something that we do once a week or once every few days or once a month, whenever we feel like it. It's something that needs to be, a routine. And then we start to see progress and so on like that. So as a beginner, we get ourselves on the path, and slowly we become on the path to become a wholly enlightened being. And along that path, as we get further along, we become what's called a bodhisattva. And the bodhisattva is a wholly enlightened being. So bodhi means enlightenment, sat is a being, and sattva is a holy being. So it's the wholly enlightened being. So we become the bodhisattva. Now there's many bodhisattvas, and there are what's called 8 great bodhisattvas. And these bodhisattvas are beings who have perfected themselves to this point of being this close to becoming a Buddha, of virtually leaving and being able to be there as a Buddha, but not being able to work directly with human beings. So these bodhisattvas have said that they will remain a bodhisattva in order that they may still be able to help human beings, to be able to talk to them, to be able to see them, to have the bodhisattvas see the practitioners, to be able to recognize them and see them and so on. So this really is meditational, but as we do this, we become those 8 great bodhisattvas. And these 8 great bodhisattvas are the perfections of these 8 great human qualities that we need to be able to perfect in order to become enlightened, to remain stable, to recognize our enlightenment, to live an enlightened life. So these 8 great bodhisattvas, of course, each have names. I'm not going to go into the names, but it is important to be able to recognize what their enlightened activities are. So one of the bodhisattvas, the first one, his activity is cultivation of the Dharma, cultivation of virtue. So we can think of it in terms of being like a gardener, someone who wants to plant a garden. Maybe it's flowers or maybe it's vegetables and fruit and things like that. But first, you've got to prepare the ground. You've got to cultivate the ground and so on. So this first bodhisattva is the one who is cultivating this, who is looking at things. That's the activity that this bodhisattva is engaging in. The second bodhisattva is one who is using wisdom, the wisdom of grace, the wisdom of loving kindness, to now be able to plant seeds and be able to set the garden, to set the rows where you're going to plant the seeds, and then you have the troughs where you're going to water in between the rows and so on. So you're getting all that organized, so it's having the loving kindness, it's having the wisdom to know how to do that. So that's the second part. Then the third part is to have the devotion to do this regularly, to have the devotion to want to be able to develop the Dharma, to be able to recognize your practice and so on, and to your studies and so on, and to be able to go into, in terms of the gardener, to go and do the weeding and to make sure that the watering is done and to make sure that the sunshine comes and all the things that are necessary for the seeds that were planted to be able to germinate and to grow properly and so on. So the third thing is devotion. Then the fourth thing now is transformation. Transformation is when the seed sprouts, and the sprout, then the stalk begins to come and it breaks the ground and it starts to grow up and it starts to, it's moving around in a circular direction, and the leaves are coming and it's getting stronger and so on like that. So we need to be able to nurture that transformation to come about, to allow that transformation to come about, and to make sure that there's not weeds there or other things that are bugs or whatever it might be coming to contaminate the space that is required for this transformation to take place. So now the fifth thing is to have wisdom of how this is all going to come about, how this is what we are going to do with this, to have the wisdom to know that we've got to stake things, we've got to, put the stakes in the ground so if it's like a tomato plant that it grows and so on. But, in terms of the Dharma, we have to be able to nurture, to be able to have the right teachings, to be able to have the right practices, to have the right wisdom, and to allow ourselves to have the right glimpses, the right visions of what the result of this is going to be. If we don't have a goal, then things start going, they start wandering and so on because we don't know where they're supposed to go. But if we have an idea of where this needs to go, now we can keep things moving in that forward direction. So that wisdom is now the fifth. The sixth is having compassion. Compassion is being able to take that wisdom and being able to put it into a method, to allow this thing to come together, to be able to see that there's this system in place. The gardener knows that there's fertilizers that are involved, and there's, grooming that's involved, and there's, weeding that's involved, all these things. And it's like an act of compassion, of the wisdom for this to all come together. So for us, for a practitioner, the compassion is giving ourselves the ability to receive the teachings, to be able to study the books, to be able to do the practices, to do the mantras, to do the different elements that support the wisdom. So it's the method, it is the practice. So that's the number 6. So then comes number 7. And number 7 is the purification. And the purification of this is to be able to be the proper vessel for this, to be able to have the proper place for this, that the garden is in the right place, and that you're keeping it protected, and that you're removing anything that becomes a contamination to it, and so on. So it's more of a broader, concept of purification and stabilization of that purification of now what is this growing seed that now has become this plant of one type or another, and so on, to allow the flowers to come, to allow the fruit to come, to allow the vegetables to come, whatever it is that we're planting in this garden. For us, it's for our enlightenment, to realize that enlightenment comes in little bit glimpses, through doing our practices, bringing in the knowledge and so on like that. So that is number 7, is the purification. So number 8 is the power of all this. Number 8 is the all this now comes together, and now here comes the fruition. Now comes the fruit. Now comes the vegetables. Now comes the beautiful flowers. And the power of all this, of what it does, it sustains our life. It sustains our love of life, the beauty of the flowers, the deliciousness and the nutrition of the fruits and vegetables that we've grown and so on, that gives us power and so on. And in the Dharma, it gives us the power to be able to recognize that we can be a complete human being, that we're not just a physical body, we're not just an intellectual body, but we are a spiritual body as well. And that together, this completes us as a human being. And as a human being then, as this human being, now we have the ability to become the Bodhisattva, to be able to further go along the pathway. Because if we don't have those 3 bodies within ourselves, or recognize those, then we don't have the ability to move further along the path and ultimately to become a Buddha. And the Buddhas are all the fruition of being bodhisattvas. And the bodhisattvas are fruition of being practitioners. And practitioners are fruition of beginners. And the beginners are people who have had, the yearning faith, who have had the trusting faith, who have had the clear faith of experiences of putting themselves into this arena to be able to complete themselves. So those are the 8 examples of this human endeavor to be able to complete ourselves. So each of those deities has a name, and they have this particular function that I just went through. The one that we're going to do tonight is the Bodhisattva of compassion. And this is Chenrezig. His Tibetan name is Chenrezig. And what it means is one who looks down. So it's not looking down in a pejorative way or something like that. Or another way of saying it, another translation, is one who clearly sees. And maybe that's a better way to approach this. It's one who clearly sees. And Chenrezig is the embodiment of all the other bodhisattvas, and all the other Buddhas are all within Chenrezig. They're within all the other ones too. It's not exclusive, but Chenrezig is very approachable. This compassion is very approachable. And for many of us, and me included, it took me a long time, and I'm still working on compassion, because, we take things for granted. We take our lovely life for granted. And so many people are suffering in so many ways that we have evolved past in one way or another. And it's hard for us to keep that compassion in our hearts and be able to do things for those beings, for that compassion to be a motivation for us to be able to help them. And it takes a constant reminder, at least in my life, a constant reminder to do that. So it's the same compassion that the teachers, that the Buddha, that the Bodhisattvas are having for us. Because here we are coming to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and we might think how great we are to be at this point. But they're looking at us and saying, oh, those poor beings, they're still in samsara, they're still suffering, and look at them trying to be able to purify themselves and do these things. How can I help them? How can I help them? Let me see how more I can help them. And it's through their compassion that is providing us a hook, to grab onto, to become like them, to recognize their example and to bring their example and visualize it as just parts of us and so on. So it's a very important part of this level of Buddhism. We talked about that in the early part of Buddhism, there's the Hinayana, or the discipline. First, we have to establish the discipline of things. Then we have to learn, the middle way. We have to learn that the way of not doing things selfishly, as is being done in the discipline mode, but in the way that now we are doing things as part of a family, and that we are an integral part of the family, and that we have to do things for the benefit of the family and not selfishly just for us. And this is the way of the Bodhisattva. This is when the Bodhisattva is introduced into the Dharma, into the Buddhist way of life, and so on. So we go through that, and we're learning some very profound things about the middle way, and not to go to the extremes, to find the middle way between things, not to go to nihilism, not to go to eternalism, not to go to egoism, not to go to materialism, but there's a practicality of all this, and to be able to harness that practicality and use that practicality for our development and so on. But then after that, so that is called the Mahayana way. And then after that comes the Vajrayana way. This is the indestructible vehicle. And this is the wisdom path. This is the path of becoming a Buddha, of recognizing oneself as a Buddha. And this is what Tibetan Buddhism is all about. The teachings from India that the Buddha had brought into India were always were there and so on, and moved around. But when it came time, 1,000 years or so after Buddha had already passed, then it made its way to Tibet. And here it really took off. All the conditions and all the causes were ripe for all this to come together. So it was like if you planted that seed in the ground and it stayed dormant for generations and generations and generations and generations, and there was too much rain, and there was not enough nutrition in the ground and everything, and that seed was just not sprouting, But then all of a sudden the sun came out, and it stayed out for long periods of time, and it dried out all the water, all the rain that was in the ground, and then all the nutrition became like ignited. And then the heat then came and allowed the seed to be able to burst open, and then to be able to germinate and to become the flower, the food, and so on like that. Well, the Vajrayana is a lot like that in terms of Tibet. The conditions were right in Tibet for this to come about. So this Vajrayana is the wisdom tradition, is the indestructible wisdom tradition. And one of the two major things that are the hallmarks that are the features of Vajrayana is the empowerment to be able to do practice, to do the deity yoga practice. The deity yoga practice is the second feature of the Vajrayana. So this is, it's like, it's the deity yoga. It's becoming the deity, becoming the Buddha, because the Buddha is infused in all these things, all these deities, all these enlightened activities. So it's coming to recognize all this. So this is this is what we are about in terms of the Tibetan Buddhism. So it's also called the Vajrayana, or I call it the Vajrayana, the indestructible vehicle. The yana is a vehicle. And it's also called Mantrayana. The mantras are the recitations that we do, the chanting that we do, which is the speech of that deity. And through the speech, through the physical bringing in the air and visualizing the meaning of the mantra and uttering the mantra and so on, it's bringing the physical body together with the intellectual body. And that mantra becomes like the key that opens up the heart center, which is our spiritual center. So Vajrayana is also referred to as Mantrayana because it's the mantra vehicle. Mantra is done in the Hinayana and in the Mahayana, but it's really in the Vajrayana that it really opens up, that it really becomes a huge part of becoming a Buddha. It's also called the Tantrayana. So maybe you've heard of Tantra. There's Tantra, there's Sutra teachings, and there's Tantra teachings. So the Sutra teachings are the literal teachings of the Buddha, like the Gospels. They're the literal sayings of the Buddha and the masters, the very, very high masters that came after the Buddha, who, kind of are articulated and maybe, brought into focus, the teachings of the Buddha. And there's many, many, many volumes of books that are written that, substantiate this, that are the scriptures for this and so on. So those are the sutra teachings that are taught in the Mahayana and the Hinayana, the first two. And then the Tantrayana are the practices. And so they're done in this third group, the Vajrayana. So it's sometimes called the Tantra, or the literal meaning for Tantra in Sanskrit is a continuum. The continuum. That there is this continuum of movement. There is this continuum of energy, if you want to look at it that way, like a vibration that is running all the way through us, or a fabric that we are all woven on that is invisible to us, but yet we are part of that fabric. And or it's this vibration that we are going through, and we're either harmonizing with that vibration or we're becoming discordant with that vibration. So we need to be able to recognize that vibration. So by doing the mantra, by doing the chanting and so on, is a practical way to be able to visualize that, to experience that. And then as we get more deeper into our transcendence of the practice, then we be able to recognize it as this vibration. We begin to recognize it, as this fabric, and many other different analogies, similes, that we begin to associate with now this greater viewpoint than the one that we have as ordinary human beings who only are thinking of their physical body and their intellectual body. So, any questions or comments? Does that make some sense? Michael, did you have something? Okay. All right. So the next thing is to do practice. I'm going to introduce the practice. It's a short practice, but it is a fundamental practice. Does anybody need to take a break right now? Need a couple of minutes? It's fine. If everybody's comfortable, we can keep on going. Okay. All right. So now if you can turn to page 20 in the prayer book, in the Deity Yoga prayer book. And this is Rebecca, this is what I sent to you. And you see on the front page is a picture, an illustration of the Bodhisattva Chenrezig. So this is an illustration for us to be able to associate ourselves with our pure nature. So you look at this picture and you see at the very bottom are the leaves of you see a pink flower. It's the leaves, the petals of a lotus flower. And the lotus flower, if you remember, represents purity. And this is the pedestal on which Chenrezig is sitting. And if you remember the story about the lotus flower, that it comes from a seed that comes out of the muck and mire of a slow-moving pond, water pond, and from that filth at the bottom comes this beautiful stalk that comes up and it breaks the surface of the water, and up in the atmosphere then comes this beautiful stainless flower that has come out of this muck and mire and this filthy water and so on like that. So this is symbolic of that the deities, remember, are human beings who have purified themselves along this pathway. So we are sitting on this purified flower. So this is an important idea. Then, sitting on top of the pedestal of the lotus flower, it's difficult to see, but there is a white disc that is sitting flat on top of the lotus flower, and underneath the white disc is a yellow disc. The yellow disc is called a sun disc, and it represents the wisdom fire, the wisdom heat. You know, sometimes when we're learning and so on, and all the intensity of our learning and bringing all this in and so on, you know, we get hot, we get energized, you know, it gets intense and so on. So this wisdom fire is there, and on top of that is this white moon disc. So this is the cooling of the wisdom fire. And this cooling is referred to as the compassion. So this is the moon compassion disc, the cooling disc that is on the wisdom fire, the wisdom heat. So we say it's two sides of the same hand. You can't have one without the other. They're simultaneous. So we need to recognize both. So the wisdom is the teaching, is the loving kindness, and the compassion is the method, is the actualization of the wisdom. So the peaceful deity, in this case Chenrezig, is sitting on top of the moon disc, this cooling disc, this compassion disc. And this is the Bodhisattva of compassion. He's got a white body, and the white symbolizes the purity. White holds all the other light within it. And if you take the diamond, or you take some kind of a prism, a glass prism or something, and you shine light through it, you see it breaking down into the different colors of red, orange, blue, green, etc. Roy G. Biv. So, but it's all in the white light. So the white represents that purity, that totality of all that being present within the body of Chenrezig. And then Chenrezig has one face, Some of the deities have several faces, so I'm not going to get into that tonight, but he's got one face, and he's wearing um, um, a tiara that has 5 jewels in it, and the jewels represent the 5 Buddha families. We're not going to go deeply into the 5 Buddha families tonight, but all the Buddhas are all within Chenrezig. So this crown represents that. And you see that there's a top knot, that there's a pointed headedness to Chenrezig and to all the Tibetan Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And what that's called the Usnisha. And the Usnisha represents the teaching knowledge, or that these are teaching deities, yidams. Yidams are tutelary deities, meditational deities that are teaching us something that is beyond our everyday mundane world. They're teaching us about our meditation. They're teaching us first we have to learn a method by which we comprehend them, or we apprehend them, we comprehend them, then we contemplate them, and then it opens up, then we begin to recognize that spirituality within us. But first we've got to start here to be able to get to here. So that top knot, that pointed headedness, represents that teaching, represents that they are yidam tutelary deities, meditational deities. So then he's got other jewelry and so on, which represents different aspects of accomplishment and so on. And I'm not going to go into the details about that, because that's something that when you receive the empowerment from the lamas, from the Tibetan teachers, from the gurus, they go into much greater detail than what I can go into. And they talk about all these little individual elements that, you know, you begin to bring together into the deity who is actually inside of you. So that comes from the empowerment. And the empowerment is like a, for lack of a better word, it's like an initiation, but it's not a secret initiation. It's not something that is only held for some people, but it's held for people who want it, people who take a vow that they are going to receive the teaching, they're going to receive the teaching, receive the empowerment, and they're going to use, and they're going to do the practice. They're going to try and bring this in and be transformative in their lives. So the lamas are giving this empowerment, this initiation, to be able to, so that everybody has the same understanding of what the deity is. And when they do this, they've got a book that they're reading from that is 1,000 years old, maybe more, that they read word for word, line for line. They can go through page by page so that everybody gets the same message. Then they may give some commentary on these different things. They embellish it with their own experience, or they tell some stories about, you know, some of the other beings and so on that happened, you know, 500 years ago or something like that, you know. But the point is that they're getting the same fundamental teaching as the basis of this, and this is the empowerment. So Chenrezig here, now he's got his white body, his 2 legs are crossed, and you can see that both of the soles of the feet are interlocked and are facing up. And that's called the Buddha, the Vajrasana. Sana is a body position. And I can't do it very well, but of course the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas can do it very well. And so their feet are up like that, interlocked in the crook of their opposing knees and so on. And this is the Vajrasana. The Bodhisattva position is one where we're like in the Indian position. You know, we would call that where we got folded legs and so on. So it's a little more, has a little bit more mercy involved in it. Anyway, so now the so now the special characteristics of of Chenrezig are that number one, he's got 4 arms, and his first 2 hands are holding the jewel of enlightenment at his heart. So you can look at this picture and you can see that there's a blue jewel in there. And it depends on what the artist did, but it could be like this diamond is in the heart center of Chenrezig. And he's holding this as this is the wish-fulfilling jewel. This is the wish-fulfilling jewel for all sentient beings, for all beings, for compassion, to have compassion, for them to become Chenrezig. The point of view that we're developing here is that we are the deity, but that all other beings are the deity as well. They may not have the recognition of that, but we recognize that. We're developing that recognition. And that's a very important feature of deity yoga, is seeing all beings as being the same. We could think of everybody as being ordinary, and maybe we just spent the past 30 or 40 years thinking that. But now we can start thinking about them as being these holy beings that they just haven't recognized yet, because this wish-fulfilling jewel that's within them is all covered up and blocked up. And what we're trying to do is to remove those blockages. So through this compassion, that's our endeavor, that's our activity. So he's got this wish-fulfilling jewel at his heart with his two lower hands like this. Then his 2 upper hands, the right hand is holding the mala beads, these like rosary beads, these beads, 108 beads. And then the other hand, his left hand, he's holding the stem, the stalk of a lotus flower that is in his left ear. And so what this represents is that the left is coming in. The left is coming in, this pure nature, this pure wisdom is coming in and coming into the left ear. We receive in through the left. The left is closest to our heart. So when we receive things, it's coming in through the left. So this is the wisdom that is coming in. Then things go out through the right. They go out to other beings and so on. And he has the mala beads that are in his right hand that is, and he's in the protection, his hand is in the protection mudra. So the palm of the hand is facing out like this. The mala beads represent method. So if this represents wisdom, this represents method. This is the wisdom I said, this is the compassion. The compassion is the method. So in the illustration and in the description here in the sadhana, he's holding a crystal rosary. So this is a wooden one, but he would be holding a crystal rosary because it's perfectly clear, perfectly pure, and there's no opaqueness to it at all. So this is the outer visualization of Chenrezig, and this is what we visualize within ourselves. So if we can hold the jewel in our heart like this, we visualize that we're sitting here and we're in this position. We're holding the jewel of enlightenment in our heart, this wish-fulfilling jewel. So if you can do this, everybody, if you feel comfortable with this, you're holding the jewel, you close your eyes and visualize that you have a white body and that you're sitting in this position. And now if you can take your left hand and you're bringing it out and you're holding the stem of a lotus flower that is at your left ear, and you bring out your right hand that is in the a protection mudra like this. The hand is out like this. That's it, like at the right shoulder, and you're holding the mala beads. And this represents method. So the wisdom's coming in, the method is going out, the practice is going out. So we are Chenrezig. So as we do the chanting, we can use these mudras. These are called mudras, the body positions, the hand positions that are symbolic of this particular activity and so on. So these mudras are very important in revealing to us and being able to expose to us what this activity is. It's not just an intellectual idea. We're actually doing it. We're physically doing it. The point here is to bring our physical body together with our intellectual body to open up our spiritual body. So we need to incorporate all these things together. If we just try and isolate, it's not going to work so well. If we just try and do it from here, it's very difficult. If we try and do it just from the physical, it's impossible. If we try and do it from the intellectual, it's impossible. But when we do all three, now it becomes quite possible. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, so now we come to page 21, to the text. So first we have what is called the meditation on emptiness. So we haven't gone into any detail with this in Buddhism 101 yet, but emptiness is the understanding, is the realization that we are all compounded nature, that there is not a single thing that we can say is Lance or is Rebecca or is Gary or any one of us. There is not a single thing that is this rosary, this mala beads, or the table that you're sitting at, of the chair. It's all, everything's made up of composite parts. And all these parts that we think of as being permanent are all empty of their own innate nature. That everything is made up of compounds. So it's all empty of its own permanence, of its own singular quality, singular composition, and so on. So we talk much more about this later on. But this is phenomenal nature, is emptiness nature, all this stuff. And we see all these appearances within this, and we agree to call these things these names and recognize them and use them in certain ways. But we have to now transcend that idea of their permanence to their impermanence and recognize them as emptiness. So this is the meditation on emptiness. And this is, here is a Sanskrit sentence that we recite. It says, Om Swabhava Shuddha Sara Dharma Swabhava Sudo Ham. So below that is the English translation, an approximate English translation. And it says, the mode of abiding of all phenomena is itself pure openness and sustain that nature. The mode of abiding of all phenomena is itself pure openness. So what that means is everything is pure. Everything is open. All that we classify as being virtue or non-virtue, as being positive or negative, or being up or being down, all the different myriad classifications we give are all the same. The essence is all the same. The essence is pure openness. We make these classifications that are arbitrary, that are fabricated, that are conventions, that are conceptual, all these things, so that we can communicate with each other, we can communicate with ourselves, and our ego depends on all of this. Our independence depends on this, looks at this, and uses this. And what it does, it divides us. It separates us from that openness. But what we are doing as Buddhists is opening ourselves up to all those possibilities and seeing all these possibilities as just figments of our imagination that we tend to hold on to falsely, that we don't need to. So it's saying The mode of abiding of all phenomena is itself pure openness, and to sustain that nature. This is the meditation on emptiness. So it takes a little bit to get used to that. These practices we do over and over and over and over again. And each time we do them, we see a little bit more. We recognize a little bit more. It gets a little more clear. Maybe it's not every single time, but maybe every few months, and then all of a sudden you have a aha moment, or once a year. You've been doing this almost every day for a year. And then, the anniversary of when you first started, you do this and all of a sudden now you have a clarity that you didn't have before. Something opens up, So we have to look at these as practices that we're doing as a routine. So the meditation on emptiness, then we do the visualization. So here it says, from the all-pervading emptiness, which we just talked about, this phenomenal nature that is empty of its own self, from the all-pervading emptiness arises a lotus flower with a moon disk seat. Upon this throne in the lotus position, I'm sorry, I should go. From the all-pervading emptiness arises the lotus flower with a moon disk seat. So that was the lotus pedestal with the moon disk that I told about before. Then, upon this throne is the lotus position. In the lotus position, I am seated in the body of Chenrezig. So we see ourselves sitting in this position with Chenrezig, who is white in color with 4 arms. 2 upper hands are joined at the heart, holding the wish-fulfilling gem. The lower right hand holds a crystal rosary, and the lower left holds a lotus flower. Chenrezig is clad in the sacred silken robes and wearing the precious 5-pointed crown and other ornaments. So I went in and gave a little description for each of those things. Then this form is called Sambhogaya, the complete enjoyment body bearing all the auspicious signs of the Buddha. So the Sambhogaya is the enjoyment body of this Buddha nature. So we're not going to go into a lot of talk about that, but the enjoyment body is the meditation body. This is, we develop it here in our intellect first, bringing all these attributes together and so on, but then we meditate on that, and then that mind, that little mind, then opens up to our big mind, to our heart mind. And then we begin to see that this mind becomes this much bigger mind, this Buddha mind. So the Sambhogaya is this enjoyment body of the meditation deity, of the meditational deity, which is Chenrezig. So this form is Sambhogaya, the complete enjoyment body bearing all the auspicious signs of the Buddha. So all the symbols and so on are associated that lead us to the Buddha nature, the pure Buddha nature, that is beyond the visualization of what we may contrive to help us to remember it, but it's something beyond that. It's non-conceptual. So we rejoice at that. We're very happy that we just read that and have that visualization. So now we come to the next page, which is the mantra recitation. So the meaning of the mantra. And the mantra is the recitation, and usually it's the name or the names or the activity of the particular deity that we are doing. So as we are doing this, we're uttering that name, we're uttering that activity, and we are becoming that deity slowly, more and more. And as we begin to use the mudras, and we're holding those implements, and we're reciting the speech of that Buddha, slowly, more slowly coming together, we become the embodiment of that deity. And we start to have glimpses of what that means. So a mantra, the literal translation of mantra is a Sanskrit word, and literally means mind protection. As we are chanting the mantras, we're thinking of the meaning of the mantra, and we're uttering it with our wind, with our body, with our lungs. We're thinking of the meaning of it. So we're bringing our body together with our intellect again. And so it's the body and the speech. The speech is the agent of the intellect. So as we do that, it becomes a mind protection because we can't think of anything else at the same time. Believe it or not, the brain does one thing at a time, but very, very, very fast. We think that we're doing many, many things. We look at our multitasking and so on. But the essence of it is we are doing one thing at a time. And computers are built that way. I don't know whether you know that about microprocessors and so on. The microprocessors can only do one thing at a time, but they've come to the point where they can do so many things very, very fast. But really, they're only doing one thing at a time. So the computers have been designed in the same way that the human brain works. And that's a scary thought. It is to me, because that's why computers can be so confusing, because human beings made them. And human beings are very confusing, aren't they? So the mantra recitation is a mind training recitation. So now it says, in the heart center of Chenrezig, so in the heart center of Chenrezig is a moon disk with the letter Shri standing in the center. So the letter Shri is a syllable. If you look over on page 23, the next page, up in the upper right-hand side, there is a Sanskrit character there that's called the Shri, and then it's written in English right below it. So whether you look at it as the Tibetan or the Sanskrit, or you look at it as the English, the Shri, it means the primal cause. The primal cause at the heart center of the deity of Chenrezig is compassion. The primal cause, the primal purpose, the primal cause of being, the primal cause of being a teacher is for compassion. So this compassion is at the very center of all of this. And this is called the seed syllable. This is called the seed syllable. So all these deities have a seed syllable, and some share the same seed syllable. Some have different seed syllables depending on what their activity is and so on. But Chenrezig is the Shri, a white Shri. So it says in the heart center of Chenrezig is a moon disk with the letter Shri standing in the center. Around this, the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum circles clockwise. So this mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, is his mantra. And it's going around in a clockwise direction like this, around the Shri at our heart center. So if you do this, if you take your right hand and you take your thumb and your little finger together, and then your three fingers together like this, and then you're going around your heart like this, and the Shri is in the center. You're visualizing the Shri in the center. And as we do that, the mantra is Om Mani Padme Hum, and the Om Mani Padme Hum is radiating white light. And that white light, we'll see what's going to happen with that. But that white light is very important. So now it says, around this, the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum encircles clockwise. It says now, light radiates from the mantra and is offered to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the Buddha fields. So this light is going around like this to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the Buddha fields. And where do you think the Buddha fields are? The Buddha fields are not out there. The Buddha fields are all in here. Everything is in here. There's nothing that we need. Everything out there is empty. That's all emptiness. That's all phenomenal nature. The true nature, all this is within ourselves. Remember, we visualize ourselves in our prayers. We say that we visualize that every atom of my body are Buddhas. and all surrounding the Buddhas are bodhisattvas. It's all within us. It's all within our body. It's not out there. All out there is confusion. So it's all within us. So light radiates from the mantra and is offered to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the Buddha field. So this white light is going from the seed syllable from this mantra going back into our heart center. Then it says, blessings of compassion and wisdom. Blessings of compassion and wisdom return from the Buddha fields in our heart in the form of light, white light, which is absorbed into myself. So now it's all coming into my body. Remember, we're in the form of Chenrezig. Chenrezig is a part of us. It's all coming together and then into my ordinary body. Now my ordinary body is transforming into Chenrezig. All obscurations of body, speech, and mind are purified. So all the obscurations of what our ordinary body, our ordinary speech, our ordinary mind are all purified, and we become Om Ahom. We become the deity. We become Chenrezig. Now, it'd be nice if it happens like that, but it happens slowly, slowly, slowly. You may have a period where it happens like that, and that's wonderful. Rejoice that should happen. So, but we are patient with this. We have perseverance with this. We continue to do this, and slowly, slowly, we begin to recognize this. So it's absorbed into myself. This light is absorbed into myself. All obscurations of body, speech, and mind are purified. Again, compassionate light radiates from the heart mantra. So now we're back to this, and now the light is going out now. It says, compassionate light radiates from the heart mantra, dispelling the suffering and ignorance of all sentient beings of the 6 realms. So now this white light is going around this mantra garland, is going out now to all beings that are part of this phenomenal nature, purifying them. And we see them all as Chenrezig. We see them all as the Bodhisattva. It may be their potential that we are seeing. They don't recognize it, but we see that potential. We see that loving kindness. We see that compassion. If we don't see it, it ain't going to happen. If we want to see the world be peaceful, if we want to see love and compassion, it starts right here. It doesn't get any more simple than that. So dispelling the suffering and the ignorance of all sentient beings of the 6 realms. We talked about that a few weeks ago. The human realm, the hell realm, the hungry ghost realm, the animal realm, the jealous God realm, and the God realms. We talked about those 6 realms, who are then transformed into Chenrezig, the great compassionate one. So Chenrezig is called the great compassionate one. And now we visualize that all sentient beings, all of these beings are reciting this mantra or saying this mantra together at the same time. Now they may be saying all different kinds of things. They may be cursing. They may be running up and down, yelling. They may be praying. They may be doing all kinds of things. But we see it all as the body, speech, and mind of Chenrezig. Everything, what they are saying is just the speech of Chenrezig. Om Mani Padme Hum. So now the meaning of Om Mani Hum. So now we go to page 23 at the top, and there is the mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. So Om is the body, speech, and mind of the deity, the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the deity, who in this case is Chenrezig. Mani means jewel. It is the Sanskrit word for jewel. So remember, he's holding the jewel at his heart center, this wish-fulfilling enlightenment jewel. So here is the body, speech, and mind of the jewel. Padme, the word Padme, means lotus in Sanskrit. So we are sitting in this lotus position on a lotus. So the jewel lotus and Hung is the indestructible wisdom manifest, or the manifest indestructible wisdom at the heart center. The Hung is making this purity, making this jewel all manifest in the heart center. And Shri is the seed syllable, is the primal cause. The purpose of all this is the primal cause of compassion, bodhicitta, for all beings. So another way of saying this mantra is, behold the jewel in the lotus. Behold the jewel in the lotus. And so with deity pride, with pridefulness, saying that I am Chenrezig. I am the jewel in the lotus. And as we are sitting here, if we look in the mirror and we look at this picture of Chenrezig on page 22, this line drawing here, we look just like him. We're sitting here in the same body position. So we're becoming the deity. And the more that we visualize that, the more that we become that, the more that we have the behavior, the conduct, the mindfulness of the deity. This is the deity yoga. This is the union with the deity, the union with the Bodhisattva of compassion. Any questions or comments? Okay. And now we're going to do the practice. So now we go back to page 21. And when we do this out loud. And it's important to do it with a conviction, with a pridefulness that is not a false pridefulness. It's not an egoistic pridefulness, but it is a deity pridefulness that all this is within us, that we are coming to recognize this. So we do this with conviction. We do this heartfelt. So now we'll do this slowly. We'll just read the English until we get to the mantra, and then the mantra we'll recite several times. Okay, so please, to get the full benefit of this, join us. Okay, so we begin with the meditation on emptiness. Om Svabhava Sudha Sara Dharma Svabhava Sudhoham. The mode of abiding of all phenomena is itself pure openness. Sustain that nature. So just close your eyes for a moment and just visualize that openness. Okay, now the visualization. From the all-pervading emptiness arises a lotus flower with a moon disk seat. Upon this throne in the lotus position, I am seated in the body of Chenrezig, who is white in color with 4 arms. The 2 upper hands are joined at the heart, holding the wish-fulfilling gem. The lower right hand holds a crystal rosary, and the lower left hand holds a lotus flower. Chenrezig is clad in the silken robes, sacred silken robes, and wearing the precious 5-pointed crown and other ornaments. This form is Sambhogaya, the complete enjoyment body, bearing all the auspicious signs of the Buddha. So if you please, Hold the jewel at your heart with your two upper hands. Visualize you're holding the jewel of enlightenment, the wish-fulfilling jewel. Peace and love, compassion, joy and equanimity for all beings. With our left hand, we're holding the lotus at our left ear, and we're holding the mala beads at our right ear. So please extend your hands out like this. The left is holding the lotus flower, and the right is holding the mala beads, representing method. This is the method that I have to be able to attain this for the benefit of the enlightenment of other beings. So visualize you are Chenrezig sitting in this position. And go back to your wish-fulfilling jewel, and now back to your heart, holding the wish-fulfilling gem. And one more time, go back to the lotus flower at the left and the method mala beads at the right. Okay. And now we go to the mantra recitation. Next page. In the heart center of Chenrezig is a moon disk with the letter Shri standing in the center. Around this, the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum circles clockwise. Light radiates from the mantra and is offered to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the Buddha fields. So please, in your heart center, visualize that your right hand is the mantra garland going around like this in a clockwise direction around the Shri, like this. Visualize this going around, and the light from this is going into your heart center where all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and all the Buddha fields are within your heart center from this mantra garland. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. And then continue to do this. Then blessings of compassion and wisdom return from the Buddha fields in the form of light, which is absorbed into myself. As we continue to do this, then from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in our heart center, then our whole body now is transformed. All obscurations of body, speech, and mind are purified. Again, compassionate light radiates from the heart mantra, dispelling the suffering of ignorance of all sentient beings of the six realms, who are then transformed into Chenrezig, the great compassionate one. So now we visualize that from our heart center, where the Shri syllable is, and the mantra is going around, Om Mani Padme Hum, our fingers, our hand is symbolizing that, and it's going out to all beings, and all throughout this land, all throughout this continent, all throughout this world, and out beyond to all beings that we can't see, all beings that we can see, all beings that are in the ground, all beings everywhere. Purifying all beings, recognizing their pure nature, even if they can't recognize it. We see their potential. All sentient beings are saying the mantra together at the same time. So whatever all these beings are saying, we hear it as Om Mani Padme Hum. So now we recite the mantra with the melody. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. So we continue this recitation, and now we're using the beads to count the recitations. This is the method. to accumulate the wisdom and compassion by doing this, not by just some arbitrary number, but we're going to do this 1 mile around or 108 recitations with this mantra, with this melody. So we say this out loud together, and as you're doing this, you can use this to help your mindfulness that this light is being radiated into your heart to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, from them back to the seed syllable, and then out to all sentient beings. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. So now we do what is called the dissolution. which is on page 23 after the mantra. It says, all the outer and inner phenomena dissolve into myself, and then I dissolve into light, which becomes non-dual with the all-pervading emptiness. So all the outer phenomena and all the inner phenomena, all the stuff in my mind, in my little mind, in my brain, all the outer and inner phenomena dissolve into myself now, and then I dissolve into light. Now I become white light, which dissolves, which becomes non-dual with the all-pervading emptiness. So this all-pervading emptiness of bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, the essence of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And we rest the mind in the natural state, this natural state of all-pervading emptiness. And we'll do this, we'll have to do this for 5 minutes. Close your eyes. Keep your back straight. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Exhale. Hold it. Relax and breathe at your own pace. If your mind begins to wander, go ahead and read the instructions in the book again. You can start at the beginning or wherever you like to continue your visualization, or just simply the dissolution of the outer and the inner all dissolving into oneself, oneself dissolving into light and becoming non-dual with the emptiness. If your mind wanders, just bring it back. Retrace the same steps. Take a deep breath. Hold it. Exhale. Hold it. Open your eyes. Okay. That was a quick 3-minute, 5-minute session. I didn't realize what time it was, and I wanted to end on time if we could. So now we appear again as Chenrezig. We did the dissolution. Now we visualize ourselves as Chenrezig. However much we can hold on to that compassion. When we get up and leave this room, whatever we do, that we take this compassion with us and we display this compassion. We become that much closer to being Chenrezig ourselves, to becoming the Bodhisattva of compassion. So now we do this short dedication of the practice here. It says, by this virtue, may I quickly realize the state of Chenrezig, and may all sentient beings, without exception, attain the glorious state of Chenrezig. So that is the Chenrezig sadhana practice. We still have another dedication to do, which won't take long. But, please, if you have any comments, please tell me what you think of that. What did that mean to you? Did you enjoy that, or was it difficult? Rebecca, because you're the new person on the totem pole here, I got to ask you.
Well, you thought in all that time that I was unmuting, I could have thought of something. I am particularly struck by the idea that if you're doing it right, it's not, it is both that you are changing your state as you are changing the way you perceive others.
Correct.
Did not see that coming.
We're making peace. Nobody else may see it, but we see it. Did you enjoy that?
I did.
Did you find the mantra recitation pleasurable? Was it difficult? What was that like?
I did enjoy it. And I enjoyed the one last week. And I wished that I could remember the tune during the course of the week. So I have questions about how you, I mean, I guess at some point you just know them because you know them.
Well, if you want, I can send them to you.
Really?
Would you like that?
I would like that very much.
If anybody else would like that, let me know. I can send it to you. I'll just record it. It'll be my terrible voice, but I will. Okay, I'll send it to you.
That would be lovely.
And I'll repeat it a few times, and then you can use it to do these practices. So you can chant this
Thank you.
same Om Mani Padme Hum, or you can receive the Om Ah Hum that we did last week. Mm-hmm. So, okay, good. Anybody else have any comments or questions or concerns in any way?
Lance, could you send us the recording of Om Ah Hum from last week too?
Sure.
That was a hard one to remember.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, also, we heard a teaching of Chenrezig that was talking about 1,000 arms.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that? Why it would be?
Yes. That is the Indian Avalokiteshvara. And he has 1,000 arms. And he is the Bodhisattva of compassion, more complex. The Tibetans have simplified many things in their practices to maybe make it, more easier for more people to be able to follow the practices. And then later on, then when you get familiar with that, then you can apply it to the 1,000 arm Avalokiteshvara. So we started with Chenrezig because it's simply easier.
Okay, thank you.
But the meaning is the same.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. And it was the Om Mani Padme Hum chant also.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So let's turn the page. Let's turn to page. We don't have that. All right, page 157 in the prayer book. And Rebecca, if you got your prayer book, it's going to be it's going to be page 18. Okay, so we recite this is the lineage dedication prayer. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharmalorgampopa, Pagma Drupa, and Lordri Kumpa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue, may I achieve omniscience by defeating all enemies, confusion. May all who travel in the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind, where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all the merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate word of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Sri Khompa Ratnashri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Om, Ah, Hom. Om, Ah, Hom. Om, Ah, Hom. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind with the Buddha and all the enlightened ones. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Lance?
Yes,
Thank you, Lance.
welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, Lance, this teachings of the great
Takumpa,
Dacumpa
Yes.
Ratnashri.
Ratnashri, in the different Buddhist traditions, they use the same like this teaching here.
Yeah, the practice would be basically the same. The translation may always be a little bit different, but this particular prayer at the end where it says, may the teachings of the great Sri Khompa, that would be, relative to that particular tradition, to that particular lineage. So this is our lineage, the Drikung Kagyu lineage.
Well, how does that equate to the Drikung Kagyu? And
Well, okay. The teachings of, so the great Drikungpa Ratnashri. So Ratnashri means the noble jewel, it's an epithet for Lord Jigdan Sumgun, who is the founder of this lineage, the Drikung Kagyu lineage.
okay.
So then it goes on to say, so he's the great Drikungpa. The Greek Kungpa means the throne holder, means the head of the lineage. So there's many different lineages. The Dalai Lama, for instance, is the head of the Galupa lineage. So he's the throne holder of that lineage. However, all the other Tibetan groups all pay homage to him out of respect that, he speaks, in a spiritual way. And he was the titular head at one time of Tibet, but it's still just out of respect that it's the largest of the lineages. So they give him the respect of being the spokesman for all the Buddhist lineages together. Does that make sense?
Well, now, then, when the Dalai Lama is saying his little things, he changes the name of that.
Then that would be changed. That would be changed to reflect the Galupa lineage. Yes.
On his lineage.
On his lineage. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But
But
the second line goes on to say, who is the omniscient Lord of the Dharma, master of interdependence. So it's saying that Lord Jigten Sumgun, Ratna Shri, that he has these qualities, the same qualities as the Buddha. He's considered to be an emanation of the Buddha.
okay,
Just like the Dalai Lama. As a matter of fact, the Dalai Lama is an emanation of Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva of compassion. So then it says, the master of interdependence. So interdependence means this relative phenomenal nature in which we live, in which we experience all this stuff. And he is a master of that, and then is helping us to ourselves become master of that. Now we're learning what all this phenomenal nature is, and to be able to not be subject to it, subservient to it, but to become a master of it. And we do that through the continuing increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. So samsara is the name of this ocean of suffering of phenomenal nature. So you can see it's all woven together.
right.
So yeah, I've got some Galupa books here. I could look it up and see how they phrase that in the Galupa tradition. Okay, so next week we are going to continue back with our teachings, and we're going to tie things together. I think next week is the 7th week, so we're going to tie things together with the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. Why it is that we are here, what it is that we are doing, and all the stuff that we've been talking about these past many weeks and so on. Now you'll see that they were all pieces of the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. And so we're going to discuss that next week. Okay, so I'm going to send something in the email to you. So if you can print that in preparation for next week, will be good. And if you can print what I sent you, Rebecca, if you want to have this practice available, print it on a piece of paper, or a couple pieces of paper will be good. So you can do this, and I will also send you the mantra recitation.
Wonderful. Thank you.